My second upload this morning is to do with the issue of expression and the freedom of speech human right, and this being a democracy and people behaving upright. There seems to be a little misunderstanding or misconstruence with regard to what people think they have control of. Now, as I've mentioned, there's been a lot of crime committed against me that hasn't been addressed, and it has been quite cheeky. These people, as I've mentioned, have disrespected my child's upbringing, as I've mentioned, and which is within my right to air a grievance or an upset or discomfort. That's a human right. There's the issue of people playing with liberties and thinking they have control over matters and working on a premise that's delusionary or inaccurate or not based in reality. As I've mentioned, human rights in the circumstance isn't the only issue. There are people that think that they're just helping themselves to what they prey on, and that's with an E, and they've thought they've taken control of a circumstance which isn't lawful. So I'm really concerned about people supporting these initiatives as they have been supporting for the past 5 years. There are individuals that think they're controlling my output of communication. They've interrupted the correspondence and the procedures that are supposed to be fulfilled, and they're already offenders against the state and already have a debt issue that is as yet to be addressed. So I'm really concerned about the damages that they've done to all aspects of the democracy in this circumstance since 2006. And I'm really concerned for people that are working with these kind of culprits that haven't got a safe basis for what they're laying claim to. I'm concerned as a recovery advocate as well. I'm of sanity and sobriety, and my privacy is being violated. And there are people in my proximity that are of offences that shouldn't be in my proximity. And there are people speaking of me that they have no basis to what they're saying. And we all know what this is. This is a collective effort of crime. And I'm really concerned for the people that are supporting that crime, that have been benefiting from my work in any respect. As I've mentioned, there's been creative intellectual theft, and that's quite dangerous. As it's been documented in the papers recently, in the past 2 or 3 years. So it's quite cheeky that there are power players apparently that are not coming to terms with powerlessness, and that are not demonstrating powerful behaviour that is respectful of integrity, dignity, and the concepts of the human rights agencies, basically. So they've done a disservice, and they're living off my work, and they've disrespected a very huge purpose. And I'm concerned about their level of sanity and sobriety and the reputation that they're fostering in this circumstance. It's not really safe for people to lay claim to my human rights or my constitutional rights. And as I've mentioned, there's been bad party politics and people, as I've mentioned, of information acquisition that is quite unethical. Now, these people have been causing disruption for quite a while, and I'm surprised they're not already embarrassed, because if I was a professional and if I knew that I was sending out a false message, or if I was working on a false premise, or if I was a person that's supposed to be respecting the Hippocratic Oath, if I was supposed to be respecting the Hippocratic Oath, I'd be quite nervous if I was in any way disrespecting a spiritual person with a spiritual identity of, like my spiritual identity has been disrespected. And I'm a married mom, and they've disrespected my child. That's quite serious. And I'm worried for them not to have come to terms with the magnitude of the problems they're causing and the disrespect that they're showing in their practices. So, as I've said this morning, I'm really concerned for people that aren't working with the law. Those that have defamed my name and that think that they're disrupting communication, withholding information, or disrupting correspondence. You know, they're after having benefited from my purpose. And they're on, as I keep reiterating, they're on property that they don't seem to think is unsafe for trespass. So the party politics issue is quite concerning in a democracy today, as it has been since my child was unlawfully separated from me, that they still haven't formally or cordially addressed since 2017. So the people that are just being disrespectful to the professions that they're supposed to be representing have done a disservice to society. Those people have been disrespecting the role of information, and there aren't any individuals with any embargo in place with regard to what I choose to communicate. And people that are working with the premise of a falsehood, that's not safe. So the law's being broken, and I'm surprised that those upstanding practitioners or politicians or parents that are aware of the harms that were caused to my child. I'm really concerned for people supporting an unworthy cause just for, the property I own. And that's subject to fraud as well. So the guards are aware how I have been treated, and the guards are aware of how my little boy has been treated. And I'm sure that if it was anyone else's child, I think we'd be, we'd be a bit more conscientious. And the issue of people thinking it's safe to break the law and disregard a person's role, position, function, or duty, and to be living off that person, you know what I mean? It's baffling. So the thing about it is, as a person, that lives privately, I'm surprised that there are people that are of defamation, repeat offences, claiming falsehoods. That's so serious. I represent sanity and sobriety, and I think it's a bit cheeky for people that have been, stepping over the line to be saying anything. It's quite dangerous what's gone on. And I mean, since 2017. So I'm still a married mother. Property is there. And I mean creative intellectual property as well. And there are debts, and there's all these kind of assumptions of people that are presenting inaccuracies. So it's not really helping the humanitarian cause, and it's not really helping the recovery cause. And as I've mentioned, as an Excalibur, due to recovery and COVID, whether these people want to work with the reality or not, that's not my problem. But when people are hoodwinking themselves or fooling themselves into a falsehood, I have concerns for those practitioners that would help that initiative, considering already what casualties have occurred. The child I gave birth to is legally a missing person. It's not safe for my child to be from my care. We have full knowledge of what has happened, and we know that isn't safe to be supporting. And there are those of an initiative that is, as I've said, fraud. And there's the issue of faith, and there's the issue of, the church, and people disrespecting the fellowship. I'll be very plain and simple about it. Clear and simple, I mean. The fellowship is very powerful. And I've been in the fellowship since 2006, since these people first committed their offences. And I'm still tolerating it, and it's still being supported. And there have been people hurt. So it's a sad sign of the times with regard to the anonymity that they've breached, the confidentiality, the privacy protocol, and the prospering they're doing from my work. So I hope the guards are on, they're in awareness about this. It's very serious what's going on, and it's repeat offence after offence. And I'd hate for people to be jeopardising themselves.